Your dream home just hit the market, and so did 5 other offers. So what actually makes an offer win? Price is only part of it. Strategy is everything. Today, we're sharing how buyers can stand out and win in multiple offers. Thanks for tuning in to the RealtorMoms Podcast. I'm Tasha.
And I'm Jamie. We're full-time realtors in the FM and surrounding areas, and admittedly average moms. This is how we sell homes.
And try to keep our kids alive.
Welcome back, listeners, to the podcast.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Hello. We are going to be talking about how to win in multiple offer situations.
Yes.
This comes up, and we're trying to do this. Right now it's early spring, super early spring.
Yeah.
Late winter. But we're trying to do this to get ahead of what commonly tends to be a trend in our area of Fargo-Moorhead, in that there's a lot of excitement around the real estate market in the spring. And so sometimes what that means for our buyers is that they are competing for houses.
Yes.
And we don't want to scare you away.
It's not a matter of being scared away. It's a matter of being prepared for what you're going to be facing.
Yeah. Sometimes, Tasha, you probably have this too, but sometimes I'll talk to my buyers and they'll be like, oh, I don't want to compete. I really don't want to compete for a house. I don't want a bidding war.
Yes.
And I don't know that I would describe the way that we handle multiple offers as a bidding war, because it's more of just an opportunity to make the best offer that you can. Do you lose a little bit of your benefits sometimes as a buyer? Yes.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is you may have to give a few things up. You know, in a perfect world, your agent would like to give you every single thing you've ever wanted. But there may be some things that aren't so important to you as a buyer that you would be willing to give up or to benefit the seller by in order to make your offer stand out.
Yes.
And those are the things that we kind of want to talk about today.
Yes. So one thing I like to talk about is providing more earnest money. But if you are a newer listener, we should probably explain what earnest money is. So Jamie, why don't you explain that to the folks here?
So earnest money is one of those times when you actually have to produce some money or some cash up front before your closing day. It varies by location and what the going standard is. So I'm not going to get into that, but lean on your real estate professional, your realtor. And what Tasha's getting at is, maybe X percent is the standard, and that's what everybody's doing. And if you're going into a situation where you want to make an offer on a house that has more than one offer, maybe offering a little bit more than the standard shows that you are a qualified, ready,
able, willing buyer that's willing to put more on the line.
Exactly.
And one thing to point out, again, for people who are newer listeners, is earnest money would be money you're putting up front, but it's coming out of what your cash to close will be at the time of closing. So it's not as if it's just money that
thrown
away.
Yeah.
It's just whatever you would owe at
deposit.
It's your deposit for that cash to close at the time of closing.
And most of the time, if you have, say, an inspection contingency, for example, and you want to make sure you get to inspect that house before you buy it, and say something happens and you don't want to buy the house anymore and you're inside that inspection contingency. Most of the time, and of course this is dependent upon how you write the offer, but most of the time you'll get that earnest money back. So it's not at risk as much as maybe some people think it might be.
Yes.
So, maybe that's one way that you can make your offer stand out a little bit.
Exactly.
By offering a little bit more earnest money.
Correct.
I've got one that when I'm working with buyers, I say, where can we be flexible? So a lot of that has to do with, price is great, right? Like sellers, do they want more money for their houses? Yeah, probably. But sometimes that's not a space that we can compete on a lot. Sometimes it is. But I will ask them, where can we be flexible? Maybe my buyer is in a rental or they own a home that they don't have to sell before they buy the next one. And so we can be really flexible on things like the closing date.
Yep.
Or
I wrote that down too. Match the seller's preferred close date.
Exactly. Or even do a sort of a delayed possession date, which just means like maybe you close on Tuesday, but you don't get the keys till Thursday. And that can be advantageous for a seller if they have to sell and buy on the same day, because it's really hard to not live anywhere for 24 hours while you're trying to make all the puzzle pieces fit together on your purchase and your sale. So
Yes.
That's a couple things.
A couple things that can work really well for you that maybe not everyone else is thinking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get another little bit of advice?
Sometimes I have clients, and you do as well, that you don't necessarily want to give up on whatever you're offering for an offer price. So it's talking about using an escalation clause.
Okay, yeah.
So with these escalation clauses, let's take a house that's $350,000. Let's say you write an offer for $348,000, but you are ultimately willing to go up to, say, $355,000.
Sure. Yeah.
You can choose the increments of how it jumps up to, but for easy math's sake here, let's say you can write it in that you, from an offer price of $348,000, you'll beat any other offer by $1,000 increments up until $355,000.
It works just like an eBay max bid.
Correct. But that is one way that necessarily you don't have to go up right to the top dollar amount that you were thinking about. And so that's something that's commonly done, but it can also protect you with trying to save on the money you could inevitably spend.
And another important part of that is 99.9% of the time, because nothing's ever 100%, but you're going to get the proof that your offer was escalated.
Correct.
You're not just going to get pushed up to your max. Oh, well, we're going to take your offer at this absolute max price, and it gets signed on the line, and it's a done deal. That's not how those work.
In the verbiage that we write and that we use, it states that
there are protections.
There are protections, and that proof of the said other offer, the competing offer, has to be provided. Of course, personal information can be redacted, but it does need to be provided for that escalation clause to be enacted.
Yeah.
So,
and kind of along those same lines, this is more of a don't, and it's not that you can't, but again, we're just here trying to get you the best advice that we can. Ask backs or seller paid closing costs, things that, a lot of times I'll have someone come in and say, well, we want to make a full price offer. Okay, let's make the full price offer. Oh, and we need $10,000 back in closing costs.
Yes.
Okay, well,
that's not technically a full price offer.
Right. If you're offering asking price, but then saying as part of your offer you need $10,000 to go from the seller to your costs to purchase, it's essentially $10,000 less than asking
full price.
$10,000 less than full price. And we're not telling you can't do that. We're just saying you need to acknowledge the offer in its whole. It's not technically a full price offer. Look at all of its
parts. Yeah. Look at all of it and say, okay, what is the seller net?
Right.
You have to think about it that way.
And that's, I think, twofold. It certainly reduces the amount that the seller is going to net from that offer. And it also maybe sends a message to that seller that you don't have the funds available to you to close independently. Which can, in some cases, make you look like a less qualified buyer. I'm not saying that you are a less qualified buyer. I just mean to say that every offer that we submit kind of paints a picture for the seller of what the qualifications of the buyer are. And when you're asking for closing costs back in a tough, negotiation or multiple offer situation, that can weaken the strength of your offer.
Strength. But yeah, definitely the strength of your offer. So
I've got one more.
Okay. Why don't you share that?
Well, I wanted to talk about inspections a little bit. So we're all for inspections. And in fact, most sellers are very open to inspections too. We are never going to tell you not to have one. But there are things that you can do to even make your inspection timeline or your inspection contingency a little stronger. And I just foreshadowed that timeline.
Yes.
Don't ask for a month to inspect.
Don't ask. Sometimes don't even ask for 2 weeks.
Right.
What if you
contact be on the ball?
If you contact the inspector and say, hey, what's your soonest opening, and get that snagged, for that coming week.
Pre-book it tentatively.
Pre-book it and share that, and then when we're helping buyers, we share that with the listing agents. Hey, we've already got this pre-booked. Of course, it can be canceled, but just we're ready to go if you go with us. So
exactly, you can shorten that timeline up. That tells the seller that you are adamant about being interested, that you want to get through those contingencies and lock up the house right away. Or if you don't want to purchase the house, you're releasing that house back to the seller to go with a different offer in a very short period of time.
Correct.
And so they like to see that.
Yes. So,
I guess I have one more.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Jamie. We're sharing away today.
This is, I think, the last one. Have your agent, I know Tasha does this, and I do this too, have your agent call the seller's agent and find out what's important to them.
Yes.
It may be one of the things that we just mentioned. It may be something completely different. Maybe they're really stressed about how the taxes are going to be prorated and getting their tax credits correct. Or, if we've got some service members out there or some folks who have homestead credits, and they're really worried that when this house closes, the prorations aren't going to be correct, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need to know the math. Your agent will help you with that. But if we find out that that is something that's really concerning for the seller, or that they got to have a certain closing date, or that they are worried about an inspection, whatever it is, see if you can find out what that is and address those concerns head on, because that will say you're attentive, you're on top of it, you notice what's important to them and want to try to make the best offer you can. All those things are important. As well as price, of course, but
I've been in a situation this year just like that, contacting the listing agent, finding out what was most important. In this case, it was what the seller was going to net, and it worked out beautifully because we made it happen, and we were able to address those things head on, and it worked out well.
Yeah.
So sometimes just that open communication with the other side, which Jamie and I, we do that all the time.
That's what we like to do, to get you the best position for your multiple offer situation.
Exactly. So thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you hear, you can check out our library of tons more episodes on RealtorMomsPodcast.com. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or just about anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please never hesitate to reach out. We would love to be your realtors. This podcast is produced by Realtor Moms Podcast. Jamie R. Swenson, Park Company Realtors, 4170 41st Avenue South, Fargo, North Dakota.
And Tasha Barrett with Property Link Realty Group, brokered by Real, at 2534 University Drive, Fargo, North Dakota, 58103.